friends, we were discussing about the various kinds of forest rights which were provided before the independence in a year of 1927 and which was again constituted in 1988, and other parts of forest right dwellers we will discuss that FDST and OTFD was created by government in order to provide the right of the forest dwellers. So FDST forest dwellers state rights plus other tribal forest dwellers, ये दो parts बनाए गए in which the title rights was given to maximum of 4 hectares. So forest dweller और tribal के लिए 4 हेक्टेयर की ज़मीन in which there will be trees, there will be plantation and there will be agricultural land. Subjected to a maximum of 4 hectare was provided. Then eventually area of cultivation concerning the family and new hands will be guaranteed. Then provision for the minor forest produce के provision and grazing, fishing, access to water bodies in the forest etc. was provided. Then relief and development right was also provided for rehabilitation in case of illegal eviction or forced displacement, and rights to allocate forest land and for development of purposes to fulfill basic infrastructural needs of the community. Remember this fact. Then important definitions that are taken part in the act which was constituted. So community forest resource, a clear definition. What is community forest resource? So it means that customary common forest land within the traditional and customary boundaries of villages and seasonal use of landscape in the case of pastoral communities. जो चरवाहे और वैसे कम्युनिटीज़ जो कि माइग्रेट करते रहते हैं एक से दूसरी जगह, तो उनके लिए कम्युनिटी फॉरेस्ट रिसोर्स एंड प्रोटेक्टेड फॉरेस्ट एंड प्रोटेक्टेड एरियाज सच एज सेंचुरीज, वाइल्ड लाइफ सेंचुरीज एंड नेशनल पार्क टू विच द कम्युनिटी हैड ट्रेडिशनल एक्सेस, जहाँ पे ऐसी कम्युनिटीज़ पहले से ही चरा रही थी, यानी कि ट्रेडिशनली विद देयर फादर्स, फोर फादर्स एंड इवन द oldest part of their family culture was to cultivate and do the forest production. Then minor forest produce includes the brushwood, bamboo, stumps, cane, tusar, coconut, honey, wax, lac, tendu, kendu, medicinal plants, herbs, roots, tubers and likewise ऐसी चीज़ों को minor forest produce में रखा गया है friends. Then third part is the forest dwelling scheduled tribes, member of community for the scheduled tribes with primarily reside into the dependents of scheduled tribes pastoral communities. Then other traditional forest dwellers, so such forest dwellers which were dwelling on the forest under the 13 December 2005 primarily reside and who are the forest and forest lands for bona fide livelihood needs. तो ऐसे लोगों के लिए ट्रेडिशनल फॉरेस्ट ड्वेलर्स कहा गया. देन क्रिटिकल वाइल्ड लाइफ हैबिटेट, सच वाइल्ड लाइफ हैबिटेट विच इज़ क्रिटिकल फॉर द environment sustainability, that is national parks, wildlife sanctuaries acquired by the invocation of Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change with locally appointed experts. तो वैसी कम्युनिटीज़ जो कि नियर बाई फॉरेस्ट एरिया पे लीव कर रही थी, उनके लिए मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ इन्वायरमेंट, फॉरेस्ट एंड क्लाइमेट चेंज के द्वारा बहुत सारे प्रोविजंस बनाए गए और उनको उसमें शामिल किया गया है. देन फॉरेस्ट विलेजेस, सच विलेजेस विच हैव बीन एस्टैब्लिश्ड इनसाइड द फॉरेस्ट बाय फॉरेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ एनी स्टेट गवर्नमेंट फॉर फॉरेस्ट्री ऑपरेशंस फॉर विच आर कन्वर्टेड इनटू फॉरेस्ट विलेजेस थ्रू द फॉरेस्ट reservation processes. Now other major initiative for development of tribes and tribal communities. So tribals और उनके डेवलपमेंट के लिए, उनके संरक्षण के लिए सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ने बहुत सारी स्कीम्स निकाली एंड सच स्कीम टेक पार्ट एज वन धन योजना. फर्स्ट स्कीम इज वन धन योजना aims to promote minor forest produce centric livelihood development. of tribal gatherers and artisans. तो माइनर फॉरेस्ट प्रोड्यूस पे जो भी ट्राइबल्स बेस्ड हैं उनके लिए वंधन योजना है, एंड विच प्रमोट प्राइमरी लेवल ऑफ वैल्यू एडिशन टू माइनर फॉरेस्ट प्रोड्यूस, ग्रास रूट लेवल mechanism for marketing of minor forest produce through the minimum support price and development of value chain of minor forest produce. Then minimum support price is also prescribed from 10 to 86 in the last few years, has supported immensely in the improvement of their incomes. Then provision for the panchayat extension to scheduled areas 1996. 1996 में पंचायत एक्सटेंशन टू शेड्यूल एरियाज एक्ट लाया गया मित्रों, जिसमें कि पेशा एम्पावर्स ग्राम सभा एंड ग्राम पंचायत टू हैव देयर राइट्स to mandatory consultation of land acquisition, resettlement, rehabilitation of displaced persons. So people who are being displaced by central government projects, state government development projects with their panchayat raj institutions will have their primarily right to look into the matter. Eklavya model residential school. Then there is Eklavya model residential school बनाया गया for which education to scheduled tribal children to remote areas in order to ensure access of opportunity of education. तो ट्राइबल क्षेत्रों में शिक्षा के विकास के लिए एकलव्य मॉडल रेसिडेंशियल स्कूल बनाया गया मित्रों in each tribal areas which are providing the eklavya school in which tribal students belonging to the forest areas can take admission and can study up to class 12th with a right to education under article 21A with 6 to 14 years of age. Now they can also have professional educations. And now international relations which make part for the government of India and UPSC aspirant is the non-alignment movement, that is NAM. So NAM has been created by Jawaharlal Nehru, late Prime Minister and first Prime Minister of India, a visionary leader, which provided that non-alignment movements after the post-World War scenario. So now we see that there is again a World War criteria where there is countries aligned toward the east, that is power of Russia, and countries aligned towards the west, that is towards USA. So non-alignment movement was a philosophy which empowers the central government of India that we are not biased either towards Russia and its members or Warsaw Pact, and we are neither aligned towards the USA and NATO alliance. So non-alignment movement catered by Tito, Sukarno, Tito, Nehru, and Gamal Abdul Nasser. So there were 5 people who create the foundation of non-alignment movement. 5 लोगों ने non-alignment movement को create किया, and which were totally neutral basis and they were not biased towards any world power or any power block. So it is relevant in the present multipolar world. जैसे कि आप देख रहे हैं, यूक्रेन has a crisis of attack by the Russia, and that can be catered only by such neutral institution which can advocate that for global peace, security, global order, global neutrality should be maintained at the global level. वैश्विक स्थिरता के लिए, शांति के लिए, सहानुभूति के लिए और वैश्विक पीस के लिए ऐसे न्यूट्रल संस्थानों का होना परम आवश्यक है. That is the motto of non-alignment movement. Further, non-alignment movement provides similar sense of both assume of India would have its power to judge the procedures that is taken by the superpower. Further, India should look into the strategic autonomy and self-reliance. Further, India has enhancing economic contribution to the global economy. Self-reliance is about empowering India and speedy realization of its full national economic potential, and also provide the strategic autonomy for the non-alignment members. That means that there is provision for the self-autonomy of the non-alignment members. Those members which are part of non-alignment, they can have their self-realization, self-restraint and self-decision making procedure without any fear or pressure of the global superpowers such as USA, Russia or any kind of superpower. So that is again benefit of non-alignment movement. Now, multipolar focus given by India in the non-alignment movement, like think west and act for the neighborhood. So, India acts with the neighborhood first, for which India has also SAARC nations. Further, India constituted BIMSTEC. Then also these all countries also take part in the NAM meeting. So there is concept of NAM 2.0 given by former Indian ambassador. So this take part in the development of India's foreign policy, which again goes for 9 tracks of diplomacy, which leads for the neutrality and non-aggression and non-interference in matter of any other nation for peaceful existence, which also caters the Gujarat doctrine. So Gujarat, Sri I.K. Gujarat was President of India, who gave the 5 principles of mutual existence. Further, there is a motto of पंचशील. सो पंचशील सिद्धांत को पालन करते हुए हम आगे बढ़ रहे थे मित्रों. उसके साथ साथ हमने गुजरात डॉक्ट्रिन को भी देखा, एंड विच टेक पार्ट इन द नॉन अलाइनमेंट मूवमेंट. नाउ फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इंडिया हैज हेल्प्ड मेनी कंट्रीज ड्यूरिंग कोविड पैंडेमिक बाय वैक्सीन डिप्लोमेसी. इंडिया ऑल्सो हेल्प्ड अदर कंट्रीज by vaccine diplomacy. तो वैक्सीनों को देके भारत ने इस चीज़ को बढ़ावा दिया कि अदर नेबर नेशंस एज वेल एज द नेशंस विच आर न्यूट्रली biased and which are non biased towards any of the power blocks, that should be provided relief via various missions. So India has futuristic outlook towards the participation in search of solution for global problems. NAM also looked despite the development of other problems, it also provided solution of climate action and climate change. तो इंडिया ने क्या लॉन्च किया? सोलर मिशन एंड वन सन वन वर्ल्ड वन ग्रिड एंड इंटरनेशनल सोलर अलायंस in order to cater the climate challenge. Further, it was influenced by the meanings of Arthashastra of ancient text and Bhagavad Gita also, which provides the following of middle path by Buddhism. भगवान बुद्ध के द्वारा दिए गए मध्यम मार्ग को पालन करते हुए भारत ने नॉन अलाइन्ड मूवमेंट का पालन किया. Then human centric globalization was prevailed and need for strategic autonomy was also prevailed under non-alignment movement. Then India's push for the strategic autonomy. What is strategic autonomy, friends? Now again, which makes a good part of your prelims as well as mains. So strategic autonomy is a concept which propagates that any nation who wants to deal with its weapons, its disarmament, its armament as well as strategic sectors of the country can develop it all strategic sector without any interference by other nation or any superpower bloc. That is called as ability of a state to pursue its national and adopt the preference foreign policy. प्रिफर्ड फॉरेन पॉलिसी को फॉलो करते हुए अपने नेशनल इंटरेस्ट को फुलफिल करना, दैट इज़ अ पार्ट ऑफ द स्ट्रेटजिक ऑटोनॉमी. सो इंडिया कैटर्स द स्ट्रेटजिक ऑटोनॉमी बाय बाइपोलर और मल्टीपोलर वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर डोमिनेटिंग बाय ग्लोबलाइजेशन एंड एबिलिटी टू स्ट्रेटेजिकली ऑटोनॉमस becomes a relative part of present scenario. Then core security issue provides the resistance of the external pressure and develop the core principles of country's self-dependence and self-reliance. Then non-core security issues Under external pressure, India is likely to alter the policy or moderate their interest or non-core security. Remember this fact for your prelims as well as mains. So there are core security issues and there are non-core security issues. Which occur for the persisting of various challenges and preference of policies. For example, India's decision to vote against Iran in International Atomic Energy Agency. भारत ने ईरान के खिलाफ वोट देने से मना कर दिया and India abstains to vote against Iran in UNSC. Further, India abstains to vote against Myanmar on Rohingya issues. Further, India abstains to vote against the Russia or Ukraine in the issue of Ukraine-Russia war crisis. Then India again abstains to vote against USA in USA Mexico crisis. So that is called as strategic autonomy. Now, non-alignment phases, we see that optimistic non-alignment formed in 1960s and 1961 was the first meeting of non-alignment movement as a third world solidarity or third world order. Then second phase in 1962, era of realism and recovery, and that was taken by 1962 war. India made pragmatic choice of security. 1962 India was engaged in Indo-China war and the groups of non-alignment members which helped India played a significant role in this part. Then we had Tashkent Agreement mitigated by United States and United Kingdom. Despite Tashkent Agreement, Pakistan continued to become an aggressive neighbor nation and which contained to mitigate the aggression via USSR started to tilting towards Pakistan. Then third phase was 1971 and 1991. India shows remarkable use of hard power when it liberated Bangladesh in 1971 war. 1971 में India became a hard and strong power when India liberated Bangladesh. Indira Gandhi government started its agitation toward Pakistan. So Bangladesh, that was a part of East Pakistan, against which India started aggression and make the new state by making Bangladesh an independent nation. That was first move of its kind. Then US China Pakistan axis was created during 1974 and further collapsed by USSR seriously. So 1968 India has did first nuclear weapon test, first Pokhran test, and 1991 after USSR collapse, India became a sovereign power with all its NAM members. Now in fourth phase starting from 1991 and 98, emergence of unipolar world led by USA. 1991 में USSR कोलैप्स हो गया मित्रों. उसके बाद हमने देखा कि यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका सॉ इट्स हेजीमनी ओवर द वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर एंड यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स become the supreme superpower of the world politics. That led to the policy paralysis at various levels. Still, India managed to remain a neutral level without getting biased towards any of the nation. And the quest for the strategic autonomy was particularly focused on the Pokhran 2. Pokhran 2 1998 में हमने second nuclear test किया in which India shows itself again a different power and it caters the engagement with United States, Israel, Asian countries more intensively. भारत ने अपना रिच यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स, इजराइल और एशियन नेशंस के साथ और भी ज़्यादा रिलेशनशिप बढ़ाए. देन इन फिफ्थ फेज फ्रॉम 1998 to 2013 balancing of power was done and India gradually acquired the attributes of balancing power against the rise of China. Despite China was rising, India maintained its power and dominance in the Indian Ocean region. Then India-US nuclear deal, 123 agreement, that is Indo-US Comcasa and JACPOA. This agreement was signed, then which also led the consolidated foreign ties with Russia, helping in fashion of BRICS. तो इंडिया ने और भी प्रोग्रेस करते हुए ब्रिक्स को बढ़ावा दिया, जिसमें कि 5 नेशंस ब्राज़ील, रशिया, इंडिया, चाइना एंड साउथ अफ्रीका involved with. Then in sixth phase, that is 2013 onward, energetic engagement with the multi-alignment model, in which India get aligned with BIMSTEC. Remember this part, Bay of Bengal Initiative of Multi-Sectoral and Technical Cooperation, BIMSTEC. Then India also get engaged in ASEAN. Then India also get engaged with SAARC, South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. Then India also propagated Act East policy and Sagar initiative in order to take the neighborhood first, in which the Southeast Asian nations such as Singapore, Cambodia, Vietnam, Myanmar, they were all taken part by Indian leadership. Then India also made a Quad, in which Japan, Australia, India and USA were taking partnership. So remember this all fact for your prelims as well as mains point of view. Now, need of greater realism policy. For strategic autonomy, India needs to look further into their realism policy, in which it needs for pragmatism इन द फॉरेन पॉलिसीज़. तो फॉरेन पॉलिसी में और भी ज़्यादा प्रैग्मेटिक होने का, और भी ज़्यादा इफ़ेक्टिव होने का, और भी ज़्यादा वैल्यू न्यूट्रल होने की कोशिश इंडिया कर रही है. देन इन 1948 वी सॉ इंडो पाक वॉर एंड साइनो इंडिया वॉर 1968 एंड देयर वाज कैप्चर ऑफ कश्मीर, western part of Kashmir, that is Pak occupied. Then Aksai Chin area, in which we saw hostility by China. So peak number 1 to 8 peaks are there, and peak number 4 was captured by China. From 1 to 4 was captured by China, which were in the eastern part. So these are challenges for the strategic autonomy, that is Chinese assertion and hostile neighborhoods. Pursuing the policy of strategic autonomy requires unsettled international boundaries, those boundaries that are unsettled in terms of line of control, LAC and LOC, that are issues with China and Pakistan, that India's independence on Western countries, India defense markets, skills and aviation industries depend on international market. Indian international markets are also hostile. So India's dependence on international market is not good as far as the hostile neighborhood is concerned. That again threat for strategic autonomy. China's dominance in South Asia. China again caters the South China Sea, and China's influence in Sri Lanka, Indian Ocean since 1971, that again hence part of Bhutan, India immediate neighbor generally find India's overbearing and try to engage with China. And what is way forward? The way forward is to pursuing independent foreign policy with Panchsheel and Gujarat Doctrine. India also need to have independent foreign policy for strategic autonomy, and the option for New Delhi's choices to promote and protect its state. Then issues based on alignment based issues, that again comes for non-alignment movement part 2. Further, balancing China's rise is needed by making Quad push and RIC, Russia, India, China, plus BRICS and also BIMSTEC. Now, on the economic front, India is exploring more broad group nations that can support India's interest and trustworthy global supply chain leadership. So in the pandemic situation, we also saw that many nations come in front to help India in terms of technology and provision of providing goods and technology. Further, defense indigenization, India dependence on US, Russia, which are again not supporting India at that level. So, India needs to counterbalance China again in terms of technology and various software sectors. Further, India needs to mitigate climate change issues, terrorism, and partnership such as Sabka Saath, Sabka Vishwas, which also became relevant for policies. Then policies of Atmanirbhar Bharat again remains relevant for pursuit of independent foreign policy as global aspirants.